How exactly does an abusive, a controlling, a harmful relationship take a woman who was self-assured and confident and strong and slowly make her lose her voice? Why does it feel hard or even impossible to figure out what you want, what you need, even what you like anymore, or who you are as a person? Why do you not recognize the person that you are now? And how do you figure out how to get back to who you used to be? Why do simple interactions, such as ordering a coffee, or simple decisions, such as what you're going to wear for the day, suddenly feel like high risk decisions with high stakes now and leave you feeling indecisive and uncertain when you used to be able to make these decisions easily and with confidence? Hi, I'm Jess, and this channel is for autistic women who are rebuilding after leaving an abusive or controlling relationship. And this experience of losing your voice isn't an accident. Coercive control is a process of systematically removing your choices by suppressing the skills required in order to exert self-autonomy, personal agency, personal power. This sense of losing your voice is not a sign of weakness. It's not a failure. It's not a sign of codependency or that you are broken somehow. It's actually quite the opposite. Losing your voice, losing these skills inside an abusive relationship is proof that you are a normal, functional human being who is excellent at surviving given the circumstances. To understand how that works, we need to learn just a little bit about behavioral science. Behavioral science is based on the idea that the organism is always correct. See, the behaviors that we choose to engage in happen within a context. We don't exist in a vacuum. Human behavior happens inside the larger context. To understand context, let's picture a triangle. It's going to have 3 points. One point is going to be our internal motivations, the things that are telling us what we want, what we don't want. For example, are we hungry? Are we full? Are we cold? Are we too warm? Those sorts of things. Are we lonely? Do we need something that might change the behaviors that we would engage in? So those sorts of motivations. The next part of our triangle is going to be the skills that we possess. We can only choose behaviors that we already know how to do. So we've got our motivations and our skills. The last part of the context triangle is going to be the external environment, because the environment is going to affect what happens after we engage in any particular behavior. The environment is also going to affect those motivations. So round and round this triangle goes, with every single part feeding into everything else. Overall, this is the context triangle. And this context triangle is where our behaviors happen. We choose to do things that work for our context. In an abusive relationship, skills aren't lost. When we feel like we are small or we can't do things that we used to do, those skills haven't been lost, but they have been suppressed. They've been suppressed because the abuser is able to control the external environment to a very large extent, which messes with the rest of our context. So when, over time, we learn not to engage in those skills, it's not a sign that anything is broken. It's a sign that we are adapting. And this is actually great news, because that means that on the other side of that, those skills are rebuildable. Is there any rhyme or reason or any pattern to the skills that an abuser will choose to reduce or suppress in their victim, in their target? Actually, yes. We've noticed that the skills targeted tend to follow this pattern of being the same skills that produce autonomy, that promote personal agency, personal power, the victim's ability to stand in her own power and make decisions for herself. So by suppressing these skills, the abuser is able to shrink her. The ones particularly associated with voice, with losing your voice, are going to be the top here associated with autonomy. That's what we're going to cover today. Under autonomy, we're going to have 3 different subdomains of skills. We have identifying your own experience, choosing, and requesting. Now these are subdomains. So underneath that, there's going to be dozens, hundreds of different ways that that skill can be expressed. So let's just talk about a few of them. Identifying your own experience, being able to name how you are feeling, naming what you are experiencing. Now, this can be external naming. You could be saying it out loud to somebody else. It could also just be noticing an internal naming. This could be that interoception, noticing how you are feeling physically, how you are feeling emotionally, how you experience things in your inner world. This is also how you experience things in your outer world, whether you like something, whether you don't like something. Being able to name this to yourself and name it to others, this identifying our own experience is a skill that is often suppressed in domestic violence. When it is suppressed, it can look like gaslighting, somebody telling you that you're not experiencing what you know in fact that you are experiencing, until you get to the point where you start doubting yourself. Maybe you're wrong, maybe your perceptions of what you're experiencing are incorrect and not to be trusted. Suppressing it can look like being made to feel wrong for your experience, being made to feel guilty or that something is wrong for how you are experiencing something, being told that the way you're feeling or experiencing something is a broken way to process that. Or also, you can start developing this kind of learning history where you learn over time with this person that anything you show a preference for, anything you show that you like, will eventually be removed, will be broken, will be lost. This could be your favorite things, you know that they always end up broken, so why have that preference? Or if you experience or express or even acknowledge or appear to be enjoying a certain experience, you might end up being sure that that experience is never going to happen again. You went to a fun place, a nice park, you loved it. Guess what? You're never going there again. So all of those are different ways that sort of identifying our own experience to ourselves or externally can start to be suppressed, and we can start losing that voice. Our second skill domain is going to be choosing. Now, choosing can be inner choosing, and it can also be external choosing. It is identifying our experience one step further to be able to compare things, to go, you know what, I prefer this to that. I want to do this versus that. This can be making an inner choice. It can also be moving something in my environment to reach for something, to move myself towards something, to take action towards getting something. These choices can be big or small. They can be those daily choices, what to wear, what to eat, or the bigger, more life-changing choices, you know, where to go to school, what to study, whether to get married, whether to have a child, those sorts of big life-altering choices. Choosing is also about values too. Choosing is where we get to say internally, what matters to me? What do I want my life to stand for? What are the values that I'm going to hold and make those my guiding star, my guiding North Star that I'm going to move my life forwards for? And one of the biggest prerequisites for choosing is realizing that we even have the ability to choose in the first place. A lot of times through domestic violence, somebody over time will start forgetting or losing the ability to even recognize that choice is an option, that choice exists, that choice is there. Now, I'm not saying that it always is there, because there's definitely times where it's not safe to choose. And that's kind of the point, because if it's not safe to choose, your body will make you forget it. We only, remember our context triangle, we only use skills that are safe and helpful for the context. If something is consistently unsafe or unproductive towards getting our needs met, we will stop losing that skill. So eventually, even realizing that we have choice can be something that's lost. Some examples of choice being suppressed in a relationship can be things like somebody else ordering for you, taking away those choices. You might say that you want this and somebody else is like, oh no, they actually want this, you know, taking away those choices. Being punished for meeting our own needs. If eating, sleeping, getting something to drink, going to see a doctor, those sorts of things that we make a choice and we're like, this is what I need right now. And we take that action, that physical choice to make it happen. If for some reason you are made to be wrong or punished for that, then eventually that can start being suppressed. The feeling like you are in limbo, like an NPC in a video game, just kind of waiting for somebody else to give that input to tell you what to do next. Another big one is boundaries being reframed as violations of somebody else's boundary. So if you make a choice and you're like, well, I'm not going to be doing that, that can then, especially if you start using language such as boundaries, that can be reframed to make it sound like you are actually in violation of somebody else's boundaries. So those are ways that choosing can be suppressed. Requesting is our last subdomain here in this autonomy. Requesting is the third step here because we know what we want. We have that identified, right? Made a choice, this versus that. Requesting is taking that and communicating it to another individual with the expectation that then that will help facilitate whatever choice this was. So that can be making requests for our needs and our wants, physical things. It can be saying no, expressing, consent withdrawal in some way. This is going to be our self-advocacy, where we've already identified what we want, and now we're taking it that next step further to make that social communication where we're telling somebody else to help facilitate that. Requesting could be suppressed a lot of different ways, but here's a few of them. It can be punished or ignored or mocked. If you are making requests and either having a negative experience after that or nothing's changing, eventually, remember, we're only going to be using skills that are helpful in the context. Within our context, if there is a skill that is unsafe or unproductive, we will stop using that skill. And it's not a choice. It's our brain going, oh, that's not working, so I should do something else instead. So if when we make requests, they are consistently ignored, mocked, or punished, that ability will start to almost atrophy. It will start to be suppressed. Requests could also be reframed as selfish, as weak, as wrong in some way. There's also something that happens where when we make requests, your requests might also be deliberately misunderstood. You might be told that you're not clear enough, that your requests are confusing, that you need to communicate better. And yet somehow, no matter how many times you try to communicate your needs, how much you try to study or learn or become a better communicator, it's never quite right. And it always gets shifted to, instead of the request, now the focus is on your lack of ability to communicate. That deliberate misunderstanding will also reduce requesting. Okay, but the good news is that since personal power, personal agency, finding our voice is made up of skills, that's something we can intentionally build, because skills are fixable. We don't have to try to figure out releasing soul ties or understand shadow work, where if those things are working for you, great. But if they're not, and you're wanting something that is functional and behavioral and actionable, we can rebuild these skills. 3 different things that you can work on today: practicing, noticing, and naming how you are feeling. This can be helpful with setting a timer so that at certain intervals throughout the day, you just pause and you're like, how am I feeling in my body? How am I feeling emotionally? How am I feeling about different things? How am I feeling about the situation in general? Kind of pausing and checking in and assessing those feelings and being aware of them. We can also have a daily or a weekly choice day where we intentionally practice, I'm going to make choices today. This could look like on choice day, if instead of deferring when other people are saying, where do you want to go to lunch? Well, I don't know. What do you want? You just say what you want. You just make a choice. Committing to 1 day a week of going, on choice day, I will actually practice choosing instead of just deferring to what other people want. What if we try to remove the frames from around our requests to just be able to clearly say, hi, can you help me with blank? Or will you blank? I need blank. Instead of over explaining our needs, instead of approaching it from the point of, anticipating being misunderstood and over explaining. Now, 2 caveats to rebuilding these skills. The first is that rebuilding the skills is not safe while you're in the relationship. Safety has to be first, because the reason, it's all about trusting yourself. The reason that your skills were suppressed in the first place was because your body is smart and you are the expert at your own situation. So if any expert from the outside comes in and starts telling you, you need to set more boundaries in this toxic relationship, they are putting you in danger. You need to be safe first. Once you're in a position of safety and stability, then you can start rebuilding. So this whole channel is based on the idea that, okay, we're safe now. How are we rebuilding moving forwards? Second caveat is a lot of these same skills for personal power or advocacy, autonomy, all these things are also skills that people with neurodivergence might already really struggle with. There is a big overlap between the skills that somebody with a different neurotype might struggle with and the skills that are suppressed through domestic violence. The way all of those interact is a completely different topic for a different video. But for right now, just know that if these are things that you're struggling with because of your neurotype, that's also okay. It's not necessary to have every single skill on the personal power wheel, but having the information about what skills does make up that personal power, which skills will help you to stand more in your own presence, will let you make those choices and decide which skills you do want to work on developing and which ones maybe you're okay with just going, that's just not one of my things right now. This video has been over how to reclaim your voice after an abusive relationship. In the next video, we will be talking about shrinking, how an abusive relationship makes somebody shrink in their world and limits those choices. We will be covering the competence section of our personal power wheel. So if you want to watch that, go ahead and click right here. I'll see you in the next video.